Hey everyone! In this episode of Women in the Arab Spring, we are going to be looking specifically at the 2011 Jasmine Revolution in Tunisia. If you watched our intro video, you'll know that this episode is going to be talking about the rhetoric of different women bloggers who were active during the Arab Spring uprisings. But before we get started, I wanted to emphasize that blogging was by no means the only form of activism exhibited by women in Tunisia during the movement. In fact, both of the bloggers I'm going to be talking about were very involved in protests, political campaigns, and across all forms of social media. So, this episode will just give us a glimpse into one type of activist rhetoric used during the Arab Spring. Before we get into the rhetorical analysis, I also wanted to give a little bit of background into the Arab Spring uprisings in Tunisia specifically. Before the 2011 revolution, Tunisia was ruled by President Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali. Ben Ali's regime was secular in nature and known for being quite oppressive. The government enacted restrictions on freedoms of expression, association, and assembly. Police forces and detention centers were also known for practicing systematic torture and widespread harassment. In December of 2010, Mohamed Bouazizi, a street vendor, was humiliated and allegedly harassed by police when he didn't have a license for his fruit cart. He offered to pay a fine, but authorities wouldn't let him, and later his complaints of harassment were dismissed. In a sign of protest, he self-immolated on December 17, 2010. This event sparked the Tunisian Revolution and other protests of the Arab Spring. In January of 2011, Ben Ali stepped out of power and an interim government was put into place. So now that we have a bit of background on the revolution in Tunisia, we can turn towards the work of women bloggers such as Lena Ben Meni. Lena was known for her blog, The Tunisian Girl, and was probably the most famous blogger to emerge from the Arab Spring movement in Tunisia. I should note that tragically, Lena Ben Meni passed away earlier this year due to complications from an autoimmune disease. Many called her the voice of her generation in Tunisia, so I think it's especially important to look at her blog and talk about her work and legacy. This stream of consciousness post was published on Lena's blog in 2010 and highlights her often scathing rhetoric. She alludes to people trying to stop her from writing, and I can only assume she is referring to the government under Ben Ali trying to censor her words. For example, leading up to the 2011 revolution, Ben Meni wrote about and documented the mistreatment of protesters in her blog. Looking at this post specifically, it's interesting to see how Ben Meni adopts a third-person voice. I think this shows a sort of universality to her work and reflects her specific kind of written activism. I also think it's important to note that Ben Meni posted things in English, Arabic, and French, so her blog was multilingual and could reach a wide audience. This is another post from just after Ben Ali and his regime stepped down. Lena shares a poem written in the comments section of her blog. This poem is calling out the former regime. The language is raw and emotional, like Ben Meni's other posts. The inclusion of poetry makes me think of the anthology, This Bridge Called My Back. If you're not familiar with the anthology, it includes a wide variety of works, including poetry, that highlighted the experiences of different women of color. The rhetoric of Meni's posts makes me think of this anthology and how writing that is emotionally charged can have great effect on readers and inspire change. And I'll try and link that anthology in the About section of our channel. So Lena uses her platform to highlight not only her own opinions and experiences, but also the language of others. This is another Tunisian blogger, Emma Benjema. Emma is a blogger who wrote about her experiences as a Tunisian woman around the time of the revolution. I learned about her by watching a documentary film about women's involvement in the Tunisian Revolution. The documentary is called A Revolution in 4 Seasons. If you're interested in this topic, I highly suggest you go watch it. I'll link the documentary on the About page for the channel. But for now, I wanted to take you to Emma's blog. So give me one moment to pull that up. So you can see here that Emma used a pseudonym for her blog, and this is likely because of the censorship that the media experienced during the Ben Ali regime. So she actually goes by Emma Benji. And this post is from January 2nd, 2011, and the title is I Am a Tunisian Citizen Who is Afraid. So the content of this post is interesting, and we don't have time to fully get into it, but I feel like it shows how not all women are proponents of the revolution. And here, Emma expresses concern that they are trading one oppressive regime from another. There are also some really interesting discussions down in the comment section. Many of the readers disagree with Emma, showing how posting something like a blog allows others to engage with content and talk back in a way that is not necessarily achieved in a book or making a movie. So this blog is really interactive, and it shows a multiplicity of people's experiences and viewpoints. So I'm going to take us back to the presentation now. So here I've pulled a few quotes from that post. And as you can see, there are sections of the post where the author uses unifying language and talks about herself as part of an us. Or a we. So she's trying to unify. I'll also say, and I forgot to say this when we went to her blog, but I have translated this from French. So I wanted to have you all keep that in mind, because there are things that are lost in translation, which happens inevitably. So I have kept that in mind when looking at these posts. So there's a shift kind of between this us language to her asserting an I, or an individuality. And I really think that this is reflective of blogging as a rhetorical device that can demonstrate a multiplicity of experience. I would even go on to argue that in the case of these two bloggers, Lena and Emna, blogging itself can be seen as a form of revolutionary activism because of the way that it talks about different experiences and allows people to share their opinions. So this brief analysis of two Tunisian women's blogs has shown just how versatile a blogging platform can be. I focused on posts that highlighted different women's experiences and opinions during this turbulent time. But these blogs capture so much more than that. They are photo galleries and discussion boards, news outlets, and multilingual poetry exhibits. No wonder it was the chosen platform of Lena Ben-Meni and Emma Ben-Gemma's Rhetoric of Revolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're interested in visiting either of these blogs or learning more about this topic, you can find the links to the blogs in a Works Cited page in the About section of this channel. And don't forget to tune in to the other episodes by my contributors. See you next time.